Mike D checking in here. Drake is in the news yet again. I normally don't chime in on the Drake discussions, even though they do get a lot of other platforms, a lot of views. And I know it's overkill for the audience, but I did think this was noteworthy. Drake has purchased 2Pac's death row chain. Now, they're saying the amount was like $500,000 or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how legit that is, but I do know this. Drake has purchased a big piece of hip hop history. Now, we know that the chain situation, and not even chain, just jewelry in general, was the reason for the Quad Studio shooting, which changed everything. To me, I think that is the moment in hip hop history that changed everything. The lobby of Quad Studio and the attempted robbery and the shooting of Tupac and the attempted murder of Tupac at Quad Studios in New York City changed everything. Now you can go do a backlog of, what happened that night and what happened after that night. And I do think that is the pivotal moment that changed everything. Now, what also changed everything is Tupac joining Death Row Records at the time that he did, when he was coming out of jail, if you will, and changed everything. And that piece of jewelry is a symbol of that, and it's a symbol of that allegiance. Now, if we want to go even further, the incident that took place in LA before, Las Vegas, the incident that allegedly took place. And I'm gonna say alleged because, all these things are out there and people are still out there. And I would love for people in the comment section who might have more information than me to, put what you have in the comment section that you can share. Anyway, the story is the death row chain that Orlando Anderson. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Orlando Anderson allegedly snatched the death row chain or attempted to do so in LA. And that whole thing carried over into Las Vegas. And you guys let me know if I'm wrong. Anyway, the death row chain was kind of at the center of this. Now, this wasn't Tupac's actual death row chain. This was a death row associate or whatnot. But again, that chain was a symbol of allegiance, and Tupac felt very strong about that allegiance, and that carried over into, that fateful night out there in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we see that surveillance footage of Tupac and the rest of his crew stumping out what many people say was Orlando Anderson. And Tupac had his death row chain on that night, that final night, and in that surveillance video, from what I understand. Saying all that to say, what Drake has just purchased is a huge piece of hip hop history. I think that Tupac's life and his death is very it's eerie and it's symbolic of a lot of things when it comes to hip hop history and hip hop in the 90s. And even I hate when the media says East Coast, West Coast, but just the climate at the time when you're talking about, what Death Row was bringing to the table and what Bad Boy Records was bringing to the table. And, at the center of all of this are these two iconic individuals, Tupac and Big, but that death row chain is a symbol of so many things. I mean, collect so much memorabilia. I even saw the BMW that, Tupac and Suge were in that night, going off for auction and all of these things. But that chain, and if you can prove that that is the actual chain that not only, was symbolic of Tupac joining Death Row, but also the chain that he wore on that night, making these decisions and these moments that change the course of hip hop history. I think if we really delve into culture and love culture and teach about this, we have history classes about this, we have college courses about this. They're I know they're building hip hop museums, but stuff like this, in my personal opinion, belongs in museums. And no disrespect to Drake or whatever. And I don't know why he got this. Maybe he got this to go at Kendrick. Maybe this is a bragging piece. He has been collecting pieces and rapping about it. I don't know how I feel about that part of it, but I do think that Drake needs to come forth and say exactly why, what I'm saying, he purchased this. I'm sure that, he's gonna say it's out of respect for Tupac, because you never want to disrespect Tupac. But this is what I will say. I think communication is key, and I know people in the comments are gonna be like, "Yo, man, you ain't gotta say nothing, whatever, whatever." He doesn't have to say anything, but I will say this: if you say nothing, people are going to take that as disrespect. And you don't want to give out the wrong energy, with things that are this serious. I think it would be in Drake's best interest to go out there and say why he got the chain and say it out of respect, because I've been critical about, even that Biggie and Pac situation and how that went down. I believe, and this is just my opinion, I don't have any inside knowledge, but I believe that Biggie would have had a better chance of living on with his life if he would have handled Pac's death and murder, rather, in a whole different way. I think that even with the Joe Claire interview, it's cringy. Everybody's kind of on some tough guy stuff where it's like, all that needed to be said, to be honest, and I understand people were young, when you're young, you cocky, and what I'm saying, you feel untouchable to some degree, but and you don't think about these implications. But all I think needed to be said was like, listen, man, we took it too far. He was a good dude. I knew him personally. I hate that this happened. It shouldn't have happened. And whatever we had is squashed, whatever. You know what I mean? And rest in peace to Tupac Shakur. And not even saying that, dude. Because when you go out there saying things along those lines, it comes across as disrespectful. And I think that sometimes in hip hop, everybody want to be on some tough guy stuff, and nobody wants to just keep it real and just be honest and be like, yo, man, I want to be respectful. I think that that gets in the way. And I would hope that, purchasing Tupac's death row chain came from a viewpoint of respect, but many people feel like that um it's coming from a notion of getting at Kendrick, because he did the same thing when it came to Pharrell's chain and threw that in Pusha T's face, right? So I would hope that this isn't the same situation, but to clarify, and so that people out there have no way of twisting their own narratives, I think it would be important for Drake to come out and say, respectfully, why he purchased this memorabilia, because this is a huge piece of hip hop history, and as a hip hop historian, this is something that everybody should want either in a museum or to actually have in a very coveted place in their home. So if it's coming from a respectful place, man, just say it what it is, man. Like, we don't need to hide behind any of these tough guy narratives and this and that, because certain people are taking that as a sign of disrespect, and it shouldn't be that. And rest in peace to Tupac, man. We should always respect the lives of our legends, no matter what. Hit like and subscribe, everybody. And I want to know what you guys think about this in the comment section, because this could be something very respectful, and it can be something that is viewed as a disrespectful thing. Hit like and subscribe, man. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys got to say. All right.